Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sketching Through the Text. I know that I like to draw, and I think in general, high school students enjoy drawing. It helps them be able to think through things. I remember in high school, I used to doodle all the time in the sides of the margins of my page. So when you have adolescents who are very visual, it can be helpful to find a way to help them think through content that they're reading. In my case, I like to draw pictures of characters that I'm planning, or maybe how a room looks and how the furniture fits in that room. I like to make a layout of like an entire house sometimes, and like characters' bedrooms. Or maybe I do like a little family tree where I talk about how it helps me visualize like how characters are related to each other. When it comes to solving math problems, I've always been the type of person who has to do all of the steps. And when it comes to doing geometry, it really helps me to think if I can draw the shape that I'm trying to figure out the area of, or perimeter, or whatever. So, what is sketching through the text, and how do we get started? Alright, so let's say that I have students who are studying the text or the play A Raisin in the Sun. And if you have students who are in 9th grade English, this would be possibly one of the plays that they would be looking at. So maybe I would start off reading through the play with them. And one of the first things we would encounter would be how the set is going to be arranged. So that's pretty crucial for a play. One of the first things that you would want to do would be to explain stage directions to your students. So here I have a diagram of stage directions. So we've got stage left and stage right. Obviously, the stage directions are based on the direction the actors are facing. So the actors are facing the audience. And so you would think of it as if you were on stage, stage right would be your right, and stage left would be your left. Upstage would be farther away from the audience, downstage would be closer. So looking next, we would look at our text. So the name of the family in A Raisin in the Sun is the Younger family. And so the text starts, and it's kind of this big block of text that the play starts off with, which obviously would be pretty overwhelming to 9th graders. It's very descriptive in the way that it talks about the set. It doesn't really give you like specific details, like put a table here or a couch there. It just kind of gives you this paragraph that's basically a description. So if you need to pause the video, you can do so now, and just pause through as you read the text. It should also be on the handout. Alright, so going through this text, I'm going to, basically as a teacher, I'm going to read sections of it at a time, and we're going to stop and go over those sections as a class so that my students don't just feel overwhelmed trying to imagine this. And this is one of the ways that sketching through the text can be really valuable, because you can have your students draw or just kind of sketch out their own idea of what they think the set should look like. And then you can talk about why you think the author made those sorts of choices. So looking at this first paragraph, the younger living room would be a comfortable and well-ordered room if it were not for a number of indestructible contradictions to the state of being. Its furnishings are typical and undistinguished, and their primary feature now is that they have clearly had to accommodate the living of too many people for too many years, and they are tired. So it says at one point, Mama must have selected these furnishings and put them together, and they were stylish and new, and they looked really good. But moving on, It says, that was a long time ago. Now the once loved pattern of the couch upholstery has to fight to show itself from under aces of crocheted doilies and couch covers, which of themselves finally come to be more important than the upholstery. And here a table or chair has been moved to disguise the worn places in the carpet, but the carpet has fought back by showing its weariness with depressing uniformity elsewhere on surface. Weariness has in fact won in this room. Everything has been polished, washed, sat on, used, scrubbed too often. All pretenses but living itself have long since vanished from the very atmosphere of this room. So clearly, at one point, this was a really nice apartment, but everything's been used so much and repaired so much that finally it's kind of like the furnishings have just given up, and so have the people maintaining the furnishings. They just try to cover everything with crochets and doilies, and it's just not working out anymore. Moving on to the next section, it kind of goes into more detail about the specific layout of the room. So it talks about a small kitchen area where the family prepares the meals that are eaten in the living room. So you can kind of imagine just this one large room with a kitchen area and then a dining area, which is sort of typical even of like a modern apartment. The single window that has been provided for these two rooms is located in this kitchen area. The sole natural light the family may enjoy in the course of a day is only that which fights its way through this little window. So this detail is kind of important when we think of how bleak the family's surroundings are. And finally, we get some more stage directions here. At left, a door leads to a bedroom which is shared by Mama and her daughter Benitha. At right opposite is a second room, which in the beginning of the life of this apartment was probably the breakfast room, which serves as a bedroom for Walter and his wife, Ruth. Alright, so now we have some kind of idea of where the rooms are. And so moving on to the next part, what you would do is you wouldn't just have your students go and sketch. You would first give them an example of what you think this looks like. So I have my own little example here. I drew stage left and stage right. I wrote down stage, which is kind of the end of the stage and the audience. And I also put the doors for the bedrooms, and then I drew in some furnishings. Now, when I made this first sketch, I forgot to put in the window, so I had to fix that, which you'll see here that I changed it, and I added in the solitary little window in the kitchen area. And so you'd want to draw this pretty big so that your students could see clearly. You want to make it very clearly labeled so that your students can see all of the details. And it's just a basic sketch. This isn't really something that has to be a work of art. Your students are just working through the details and trying to figure out what's going on. So now you're going to create your own sketch, and you're just going to pause the video and go ahead and do that on the handout. Alright, so what I would do next is I would probably go around the classroom and I would have students raise their hands and volunteer to show their sketch. Just to see if anybody got a completely different idea from what I drew. So you might have students who come up with something completely different, and it's always good to have those students maybe explain how they came up with those ideas. I wanted to talk about how you could use this in other subjects besides English. Let's say, for instance, that you have students who are learning about wind turbines, like you're teaching elementary science, or even if you were going into more detail, this would be into the physics of it. This would be something that you could talk about in 9th grade science. So you would have students draw sort of an idea of what all the different pieces of a wind turbine. And you might also have them look at the specific science behind it, like how exactly do you harness wind power? Or if you're teaching something like geometry, you might have students sketch, if they have like a word problem, like find the area of this trapezoid. So your students would go through and sketch their idea of what this looks like. And if you think about it, this is something pretty common that teachers use all of the time. It's not really something radical and new. Students have always been doodling. All right, I hope you enjoyed this presentation and I hope you gained something new from it. Thank you for watching.